Sometimes back, I fell ill and admitted to hospital, suffering from acute pancreatitis. The pancreas is a small thing in the body, but when it chooses to misbehave, hell breaks loose in the body. It affects many other organs. When I was admitted semi-unconscious, I had two doctors from far, I'm semi-unconscious. One of them was banging, not banging or tapping, tapping on my abdomen. Dr. D'Souza, he was saying, here is a dead abdomen. This here is a dead abdomen. And Ali Boy was telling him, well, we shall suck and this will be okay. Movement. There was no movement. A living organism must have movement. An institution must have movement. A country must have movement. It is movement that makes things work. When an institution reaches a point where there's no movement, that institution is dead. And this is where this country finds itself. There is no movement in this country. The Dead Sea is called a Dead Sea because nothing moves out of it. Why is there no movement in this country? Why doesn't there appear to be anybody who cares for this country? Why does it appear to be like there's nobody who loves this country, who feels for this country? Across the country, people are eating poison. Even in villages, everybody is now ripening fruits using chemicals. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what kind of foodstuffs enter this country and whether they are fit for human consumption. Nobody. I have the answer this morning to you, dear Kenyans. Why this is a dead society. It is because the people who must be working for, who should be working for this country, are busy chasing money. And everything is either not working or going wrong, or leading to tragedies that we have witnessed in this country. The men and women this country took to school and college and educated them. Those men and women have failed this country by chasing money. The accountants and the auditors are abetting corruption, white-collar theft that we call corruption. It is them that pass the files and the vouchers when the public is feast of billions of shillings. It is them who help companies to cheat on taxes. The engineers collude with contractors doing our roads so that we end up with badly done roads. Roads that are washed away with the earliest sign of rains. Bridges that are washed away. Bridges like Dindi which collapse when the first vehicle passes through. It is actuaries, those people who do actuarial science, who collude with insurance companies to shortchange ignorant and innocent Kenyans. These are professionals in this country. It is lawyers who represent thieves in this country. It is lawyers who become judges, who stand between the administration of justice and whatever Kenyans would want to have. It is them who delay justice. It is them who make it difficult for us to see the fruits of arbitration. You can go on and on. It is professionals in this country. It is they who give buildings a clean bill of health, buildings that collapse to kill Kenyans. All of these are chasing after money. And if they had read their holy books, all holy books will tell them that is chasing after vanity. We must be grateful to the few professions, the teachers who go out to teach from kindergarten to university, working for God and not money. If teachers worked for money, there will be no school. They will not go there. We must applaud our health workers, nurses who go to work, and we saw during Corona period, at great risk to themselves, the doctors, the clinical officers, lab technicians who handle very dangerous things, nurses who get home and collapse because they have put in so much during the day, doctors who don't even have time for family. And maybe one or two other professions are forgotten. And of course, the old profession we can't mention today. Where am I driving at? What am I driving at? I want to zero in on lawyers in this country. Because everybody is busy chasing money. The senior lawyers, Paul Mwite, Orengo, Githu Muigai, Ngatia, Oraro, and you can name the list. Very senior lawyers have not had the time to train and guide young lawyers. And you can see how young lawyers, some of them despite titles of professor, senior counsel, are a complete mess. The senior lawyers have not had time to guide junior lawyers, members of the bar. And everyone, both junior members of the bar and senior members of the bar, everybody is busy chasing money. That is what plays out in court every time we have a serious case in this country. I remember the BBI case. It was a very simple, straightforward case. Many lawyers spoke a lot of English in court, putting on suits, most of them plastic, like we all do. And only Githu Muigai, I remember, only Githu Muigai reduced the problem to what it was. It was just a simple matter. There was no point in a lot of English. A lot of issues raised that had nothing to do with the issue at hand. Can Kenyans amend their constitution or not? The answer is yes. The constitution provides that. You cannot go and fish. But the lawyers on the side of BBI allowed themselves to be dragged into matters that had nothing to do with amendment of the constitution. And they lost. From the High Court, Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. Currently, the impeachment.
Herman Manyora's YouTube channel reaches millions of Kenyans every single month, directly through the platform and indirectly through different social media platforms. Our serious political and governance audience are more than willing to purchase products and services marketed through this platform. With zero competition from other digital platforms in this arena, we guarantee that your product will be visible to the client base you seek. Contact us today to find out more about our audience and how you can advertise through Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. Time to reach that willing buyer.
It was such a disappointment seeing lawyers representing the deputy president going into a lot of irrelevant things and trapping themselves, and finally giving a bench that surely ought not to listen to hear this case, a bench which every reasonable Kenyan will tell you ought to recuse itself. They gave them a lifeline. I want to tell lawyers, take time to look at a case. And senior lawyers, guide junior lawyers, guide junior members of the bar. What business did the lawyers have trying to chase friendship between Murima and the Kingi? I have seen more, even if they are taken time, there are things circulating about a law firm of so-and-so who then employed so-and-so, who then became what in Senate, and before that became something else and gave his friends tenors. Even if you wanted that, why didn't you do enough research? Of Justice Fred Mugambi having been taught with by somebody. What's wrong with going to school and being taught by somebody? Is that a crime? Is it a crime to have a friend who later becomes something? Is it a crime to attend a friend's wedding and later they will become things? Is it a crime for some lawyer, some wife of a judge to be appointed to a job she qualifies for? This is what our lawyers do in court. I read somewhere on Twitter, chasing squirrels and letting the elephant go. And you have gone hunting for meat. The lawyers in this country are a great letdown. They do a lot of disservice to their clients. A case that was straightforward. And because we are still engaged in this thing, this impeachment business, we must talk about it. We are not lawyers, so we shall not be admitted to talk in court. We are not on the bench, so we shall not arbitrate over it. We are not in parliament. But as Kenyans, we will have to pronounce ourselves and ask the judiciary to excuse us, because nobody can gag us under any rule of whatever it is, sub judice or it is. Because this is a national issue. Just to inform our lawyers, this was a straightforward thing where two judges of the High Court have issued conservatory orders to conserve the matters the way they are in terms of what Parliament has done, both in impeachment and in processing Kindiki's name. Let things remain there because of weighty matters to be canvassed in court by parties. What business did a serious judge have in trying to entertain the idea that they could lift those orders issued by fellow judges of the High Court? Just to imagine, to sit down and try to decide whether or not they can lift those orders. And the engagement is at night. The sitting is on Saturday. Conservatory orders issued, a clear date given, 24th, Thursday. What hurry was there for this bench to sit on Tuesday? They could have sat on Monday, except that it was a holiday. What business was so urgent? To do what? To sit to lift orders? Conserving matters that must be discussed 2 days later? While there may be nothing wrong with the Deputy Chief Justice empaneling a bench, it must come out clearly in the court why the Chief Justice didn't do it. And there must be a reason. Because when they say the Chief Justice, it must be the Chief Justice. But because people have argued the Deputy Chief Justice can also do, we can give it to them. But the Chief Justice herself should be able to tell the country, because it is a case of extreme public importance and interest. The Chief Justice herself ought to have produced evidence that she authorized. I didn't follow very well. If she did, then I should be forgiven. Because whereas a deputy anywhere, including a deputy principal, can do certain things when the principal is not there, it is always true and obvious there are certain things they can't do. Even with express authorization, they can't do. When the president leaves the country, there are certain things the deputy president cannot do. Even when Uhuru purported to authorize Ruto to run the country, that was unconstitutional. There's no such a provision. Ostensibly to stop being president so that they can go to the Hague as Uhuru Kenyatta and not President Uhuru. That was just a circus. It can't happen. Why is it so? Because if we allowed deputies to take executive authority, we will be creating conflicts. If in the wisdom of the Chief Justice, President of the Court, Chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission, if in the wisdom of the Chief Justice, Kindiki ought not to be sworn in, and she has wider mandate, wider consultations, she's briefed by intelligence, she's briefed, the brief she gets, the deputy doesn't get. So she knows more at any one given time about an issue than the deputy. Supposing she chooses not to go and swear in the deputy president, and then now the deputy goes because the Constitution says either the Chief Justice or the deputy. While the Constitution is saying the Deputy Chief Justice can do it, there must be clear reason, such as the absence of the Chief Justice, or the Chief Justice is indisposed, unwell, and can't attend. It can't be that when the Chief Justice, with the proper briefing, sees there should be no coronation, and the Deputy Chief Justice goes to do it, there will be conflict. Why am I saying all these things? I'm saying these things because that is what the lawyers ought to have said and stopped there. And therefore, apart from Kibe Muigai's initial presentation, that what does an ordinary man in the street with a brain thinking, if you ask them, can this bench provide justice? That's why I support Kaminwa. Philosophical in the presentation, reducing it to a simple matter of conscience and common sense. Kaminwa didn't go doing what every lawyer thinks they must do, quoting what. No, authorities. Certain things are very simple, straightforward. And that's why I found it very disturbing that some lawyer with all manner of titles should tell Kaminwa, correcting Kaminwa about impeachment in America, when Kaminwa has spiked the argument far up there in the skies. The principle that impeachment is not an issue you play around with. Otherwise, in the 200 years of American history, we would have cases of many presidents impeached successfully and left office. It's none almost. In the history of America, I think only one judge, perhaps I've heard so, I'm not very sure. The Indian jurisdiction, I think 2 or so judges only have been impeached successfully. That impeachment, that is the principle Kamino was trying to advance. And some lawyer is going to the details, it happened twice or 3 times. You can see the sort of problem I'm talking about. And now going forward, as Kenyans, we must speak about this thing. What remains is very, very simple. We must isolate the issues to be discussed, and nobody should be in a hurry. First, we must hear the arguments against the impeachment itself. from start to the finish. In terms of matters of law, in terms of matters of procedure, in terms of whether it was right to hide under time bound, which is not true, to deny Gachagua a chance when he was taken ill and admitted. And none other than Dr. Gikonyo has spoken about that twice, and even now given the country where the guy is suffering from. In terms of whether or not there ought to have been public participation, and if yes, did the public participation take place? That is procedure and law in impeachment. Then we must now go on the nomination. Whether or not the person nominated qualifies to be nominated. And whether due process was taken into consideration by the president in nominating a candidate. And what should be the way forward in terms of nominating a person for deputy president to replace an impeached deputy president. That must be resolved. Let's not be in a hurry to swear in somebody. No, that must be resolved. And then we must finally go to Parliament and ask Parliament. The framers of the Constitution gave you 60 days to look at the name given to you by the president. Why did you choose, out of the 60 days, to take 60 minutes? In juvenile excitement about a matter that can bring down the country. This must be interrogated by the courts. Why did the framers of the Constitution give 60 days and 14 days to the president? Why did the framers of the Constitution give the president 14 days and he did his in lightning speed at night? You can forgive him for that. But we shall not forgive Parliament for wanting to use 1 hour or 2 hours out of the 60 days, 60 times 24, I don't know how many hours those are. I must point out, if our lawyer would say, I submit, that the 60 days were to take into consideration the fact that we were denying people the chance to put their deputy president. Because people had elected the deputy president. He has been impeached. Parliament is giving us a deputy president. Maybe we don't have time to go back for election. And therefore we give them 60 days for due diligence. So that the man Kenyans should have elected, but who Parliament is giving us, must be given due consideration by the National Assembly. That would include serious civic education and public participation. And these things must be canvassed for future. Nobody should be in a hurry to clear this case. The only thing we might have to do, if we feel these cases will take long, is to administratively say, we will work within the 60 days given to National Assembly and 14 days given to Parliament, to the President. Let's work this thing within 74 days. Number one. Number two, just to create comfort for those who fear there could be a constitutional crisis, we can address the issue. That can even be done by the Supreme Court. Of who is the deputy president now? Do we have one? A nominated deputy president? An impeached deputy president whose impeachment has been put on hold by the conservative orders. The Supreme Court can decide on that matter in 1 day and give advisory so that we raise that issue of a constitutional crisis. But we must not hurry this process. And lawyers must take time because eyes are on them. The world is watching. Let the world not say Kenya is such a useless country. It's not just a country of corruption and theft. It's also a country of fake, cheap lawyers. That cannot be allowed to stand.